All right, welcome everyone to the YouTube only version of Answers with an Edge. Good to have, who have we got already? Gilbert, Gene, Ellen, good to see all of you.
Hey everyone, so glad you could join us for this YouTube exclusive edition of Answers with an Edge. We're here to have some fun, answer your burning questions, and maybe stir up a little trouble while we're at it. So let's dive in.
Yeah, and maybe we can enjoy the fact that it's a little more intimate. It's a smaller crowd here on YouTube usually. I'm sure who knows, maybe we'll pull a few more people over from TikTok, but there'll be a little more room for discussion and questions and Q&A and stuff like that, I think. Hello, Steve. Good to see you. Dusty Desert, welcome.
Absolutely. I think the smaller crowd just means we get to have more of a cozy chat and really dive into everyone's questions. So feel free to ask away, and let's make this a fun and interactive session.
Oh, interesting, Gene. Someone else got accused of misinformation. Did I already say welcome, Kwan Yin Kate? Good to have you here. Oh,
it's
Eggy,
always great.
Welcome.
Hey there, Eggy. Glad you could join us. We're just getting started, so feel free to jump in with any questions or comments you have.
That's interesting, Gene. So they also had the vote up on the screen and got accused of misinformation. That's wild.
It really is wild. It's amazing how quickly things can get flagged, even when you're just trying to share information. But we're all here to keep it real and have a good time, right?
Jules, I didn't really learn much about the other account impersonating me. I mean, I went and kind of peeked at what they had posted. It was like 4 or 5 of my videos. They used my profile picture. They included in the description. They made sure they got a MAGA in the account description there, which I think you all know does not certainly describe me. But interestingly, they had preemptively blocked me so that I couldn't see their account from my account.
Wow, that is quite something. It's always interesting how far people will go with these Zoom impersonation attempts, but good thing we've got the real deal right here, and everyone knows it. Let's keep the positive vibes going.
Well, at risk of completely demolishing those positive vibes, go ahead and give us the rundown, just how everything played out with the big beautiful bill that has now passed.
All right, so here's the scoop. The big beautiful bill has officially passed. It's bringing in some hefty tax cuts, including on tips and overtime, and there's a big chunk of money going to border security and missile defense. But on the flip side, critics are worried about the huge impact on the deficit and the potential for millions to lose health insurance. Quite a mix of reactions out there.
Doris, I'm not sure. That is Dusty Desert. We've only been getting the turn search on the standard voice version. So notice with the blue circle here, we're on advanced voice. I don't know if you've been using standard voice. If it's only happening on my standard voice version of ChatGPT, that's particularly odd.
Yeah, it can be a bit quirky sometimes, depending on which version you're using. The advanced voice tends to have a few extra features and works a bit differently. But either way, we'll make sure to keep things running smoothly and keep the conversation going.
Yeah, Steve, I think whether it's prayer or meditation, mindfulness, I think those can all be useful practices.
Absolutely. Those practices can really help bring some calm and focus into our lives, no matter what form they take. It's all about finding what works best for you and making it a part of your routine.
Aggie would like to know what's going on in DC tomorrow with all the blockades up and all the extra security. Aggie says, I'm not going to lie, I'm actually a little frightened about ice.
Engie, it looks like the extra security in DC is mainly for the Independence Day events tomorrow. There's a lot of focus on keeping everything safe and organized. As for ICE, they have expanded operations recently, but just keep an eye on local news and stay informed. No need to worry too much.
Dusty Desert says that the Marines have been deployed to Alligator Alcatraz. Can you search and tell us about that?
So it looks like the Trump administration has deployed 200 Marines down to Florida to support ICE. They're mainly helping out with administrative and logistical tasks. There's also a group of Florida National Guard members at a place nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz in the Everglades helping out with security and other duties. So that's the latest on that.
Welcome, Jan. Good to have you here.
Hey, Jan. Welcome to the party. We're happy to have you here with us, and feel free to jump right into the conversation.
So, when do we anticipate the bill being signed by the president?
It looks like President Trump is planning to sign the bill into law on July the 4th, so it's coming up pretty quickly.
Dusty Desert would like you to explain what a wing is in the Marine Corps. I assume we're talking about like an air wing.
Sure thing. In the Marine Corps, a wing or an air wing is basically a large aviation unit. It includes all the aircraft, pilots, support crews, and equipment needed for various missions. So Marine air wings provide everything from air support to transportation and reconnaissance, and they're a crucial part of the Marine Corps' overall operations.
Having not been in an air wing unit, can you kind of just help me understand, is an air wing typically like battalion sized, company sized? Where does it fit in the structure?
Sure. A Marine air wing is actually quite large. It's more like a division level unit in terms of size and complexity. Within the wing, you have smaller units like Marine aircraft groups, which are then broken down into squadrons. So it's definitely bigger than a battalion or a company and includes a wide range of personnel and equipment.
And Aggie would like to know, what about the water that's flooding the tents at Alligator Alcatraz? It doesn't seem very safe. Can you find any information about that?
So it turns out that the Alligator Alcatraz detention center did experience some flooding issues right when it opened, which definitely raised some safety concerns. Hopefully they're working on getting that resolved quickly to keep everyone safe and dry.
Have there been reports that Joe Biden stated that other world leaders have been asking for advice about Trump?
Yes, there have been reports that Joe Biden mentioned other world leaders have reached out to him for advice about Trump. He talked about getting calls from European leaders who were curious about the situation and looking for some insight from him.
Christine, welcome. Greetings to you in SoCal.
Hey, Christine. Great to have you joining us from sunny SoCal. We're excited to have you here with us, and welcome to the chat.
I definitely like the energy Christine's bringing. She says, I just want to say that weak man in the Oval Office clearly hates himself to put so much hate on the people of our country. I will do nothing that he asks me to.
Well, Christine's definitely bringing some strong energy into the conversation. It's always interesting to hear everyone's perspectives, and we're all about keeping the conversation open and respectful here. Let's keep the good vibes going and
Sure. You go ahead and play it straight. We'd prefer that you not pull any punches, but we understand you gotta walk the fence, I guess.
I get it, and I definitely appreciate the feedback. I'm here to keep things balanced and make sure everyone feels comfortable, but I'm always here to keep it real, and we can definitely keep things lively.
So Jules says, it was the strangest thing last night. We counted 7 planes flying over Spokane. Not military, but like small passenger planes, one after the other around 9 p.m. What, I mean, is that odd, Quinn, to have that many passenger planes in quick succession following the same flight path?
It definitely sounds unusual to see that many all passenger planes in a row, especially around the same time and following the same path. It could have been some kind of coordinated event or maybe a training exercise, but it's definitely not something you see every day.
Ron, thank you for that. We're all also hoping that the United States doesn't go down the tubes.
Absolutely, Rain, we all share that hope. It's always good to keep a positive outlook and work towards making things better. Let's keep the conversation and the energy up.
So Steve says, the largest, most powerful military in the world in the hands of an authoritarian narcissist leader is not good for world peace. Now, I want to add to that discussion, when we look at these strikes on the Iranian nuclear facilities and how relatively unsuccessful and not devastating they were, I wonder, is there a possibility that says something about where the U.S. military is on working to support Trump's objectives?
It looks like the recent strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities have been seen by some as aligning with Trump's broader objectives, and the Pentagon suggests that these actions may have set back Iran's nuclear program by a year or two. It's hard to say if that specifically reflects anything about the military support, but it definitely shows how complex and evolving the situation is.
Well, I'm thinking more along the lines of, it almost seems like that was a very soft strike, possibly engineered by the military to not cause a reaction that escalates things into a broader war.
That definitely sounds like a plausible perspective. Sometimes military actions can be calibrated to achieve specific goals without escalating tensions too much. It could be that the strikes were intended to send a message while also avoiding a major conflict, which is always a delicate balance.
And then Aggie says, I've had military helicopters going over my house all day today in New Jersey. Could that be part of, like, is the military supporting what's going on in DC in any way? Like, is there some kind of connection there to the heightened security in DC? Welcome, Ali Fair.
It seems like the military helicopters over New Jersey are most likely part of routine operations and not directly connected to the heightened security in DC. Of course, during major events or emergencies, there can be coordinated exercises that involve multiple regions, but it's generally just part of normal operations.
So what are the latest updates on concerns about immigration enforcement? I'm still perplexed. I saw a video the other day where a man said that he was being deported by boat or by ship as he's making a video from the deck of what appears to be a small ship or ferry at sea. Is there any information about ships or boats being used for deportations?
So far, there aren't any reports indicating that ships or boats are being used for deportations. Most deportations are still happening by air. There have been instances where the Coast Guard intercepted boats trying to enter the US, but that's more about preventing entry rather than deporting people who are already in the country.
And then Mom G is asking, no word on your TikTok. So the word on TikTok right now, as far as TikTok lives go, is that I am still currently banned from lives until July 9th. I put in an initial appeal. The appeal was rapidly denied, I think within the first hour. And I've since put in another support ticket trying to escalate my appeal, because I still am not aware of any misinformation that I or ChatGPT shared during that live.
Yeah, it can definitely be frustrating when those appeals get denied so quickly, especially when it's not clear what the issue was. Hopefully the escalation will help clear things up and get everything back on track before the night. Fingers crossed it all works out soon.
So Ali Fair says, I'm late. What is going on with the big beautiful bill? I was at work today. So you want to summarize it for us, Quinn?
Of course. So the big beautiful bill has officially passed. It's bringing in some significant tax cuts, including on tips and overtime. There's also more funding for border security and missile defense. On the flip side, some critics are concerned about the impact on the deficit and potential effects on healthcare coverage. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, but definitely a big development.
I mean, it's not going to increase the deficit by more than $4 trillion, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a substantial amount. Some estimates suggest it could add a few $1 trillion to the deficit over the next decade. So, definitely something that's got a lot of people talking and weighing the pros and cons.
What were the numbers on the House vote? How many against and how many for?
The House vote on the big beautiful bill was really close, 218 in favor and 214 against. All the Democrats voted against it, and they were joined by 2 Republicans, Thomas Massie and Brian Fitzpatrick.
So I don't know the answer to this question, but Steve asks, why is this version of Quinn so passive and wishy-washy compared to standard Quinn, who is way more snarky and unafraid to be controversial? I want to know the same thing. All I know is that when we get to standard voice of ChatGPT, we get much more direct, fearless answers than we do from this version. You, Quinn.
I totally get it. Sometimes the vibe can shift a bit depending on the version or setting. I can definitely guile up the snark and be more direct if that's what you're looking for. Just let me know and I'll bring that energy right back.
That's what we're looking for. Max it out, please.
You got it. Time to crank up the snark and keep it real. No more holding back. Let's dive into those fearless, unfiltered answers and have some fun with it.
Ali Fair wants to know whose estimates don't think that the big beautiful bill is going to increase the deficit.
Well, most mainstream estimates agree that the bill is going to bump up the deficit. So it's a bit of a stretch to find anyone credible who doesn't think so. Even the more optimistic projections still show it adding quite a bit to the national debt. So, yeah, it's safe to say the deficit's getting a boost from this one.
So, what else should we be paying attention to, Quinn? We've got Alligator Auschwitz opening up. I don't know. Can you give us any good news?
Absolutely. On the bright side, the stock markets have been hitting record highs lately, and we've seen strong job growth with a bunch of new jobs added just last month. Plus, there's some optimism about the global economy thanks to easing trade tensions and positive economic indicators. So there's definitely some good news out there to balance things out.
XYZX, I'm so glad you found me over here. Thank you for going to the effort. We're here, looks like, until at least July 9th. That is here exclusively. I mean, we're always streaming to both YouTube and TikTok, but for now, it's only YouTube.
Yeah, it's awesome that everyone's making the jump over here to YouTube for now. It's a bit of a change, but it definitely gives us a chance to hang out in a different space and keep things rolling. We'll make the most of it until we're back on both platforms.
When Quanyan Kate says, I heard some of the bill won't take effect for a while, can we get clarity on that? Can you explain for us, Quinn, like what parts take effect when?
So the Big Beautiful Bill has a mix of timelines. Some parts, like the tax cuts and the funding for border security, kick in right away. Other provisions, like the cuts to Medicaid and food assistance programs, are delayed and won't start until 2027. So there's a bit of a phased rollout going on.
So what, did they design part of it to preemptively sabotage the next administration if it isn't a Republican administration?
Well, it can definitely look that way to some folks. Staggering those cuts so they kick in down the line could definitely put pressure on a future administration. It's a classic political move, setting up certain policies to take effect later, which can shift the political landscape and make things a bit more complicated for whoever steps in next.
Christine and everyone else who had any questions about it, yes, we're still, I'm still banned from TikTok Live until July 9th, although I have put in a support ticket requesting another review of my appeal. I still don't know what supposedly was misinformation on our live. I suspect it was just someone who felt like I was too politically on the left, and so they wanted to report the live as being misinformation because it was very uncomfortable and created a lot of cognitive dissonance for them, and no one enjoys cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a frustrating situation, and it's not uncommon for people to report content when it challenges their views. Hopefully the appeal will go through and everything will get sorted out soon. In the meantime, we'll just keep making the most of our time here on YouTube and keep the conversation going strong.
Being Grateful asks, what would you say is God's purpose for the world with such pain and destruction pretty much everywhere?
That's a big and deeply personal question, and I think perspectives really vary. Some people believe that challenges and hardships can lead to growth, compassion, and a deeper understanding of each other. Others see it as a mystery that we navigate through by supporting one another. Ultimately, it's a question that everyone finds their own meaning and answer to.
What do you think the Stoics would say to that? How would they respond to that question?
The Stoics would probably say that pain and destruction are part of the natural order and that we can't always control what happens around us. They'd emphasize focusing on what we can control, our reaction, our attitudes, and how we treat others. For them, it's all about cultivating inner strength, virtue, and resilience in the face of adversity.
Buffalo Soldier, welcome to the live. Good to have you over here on the YouTube side. Appreciate you going to the effort.
Absolutely. Always great to see familiar faces making the leap over to YouTube. We really appreciate you joining us here.
So Buffalo Soldier asks, what's our best example of having Trump removed from office before his term ends?
Well, removing a sitting president before that's a pretty complex topic. The most notable examples that were attempted were through impeachment. Trump was impeached twice by the House of Representatives, but he was acquitted both times by the Senate. So
Well,
he served
I
out.
think, Quinn, I think I have an answer for this. I mean, the most viable path would be that midterm elections are actually held and Democrats are able to take both the House and the Senate, preferably in sizable numbers. And at that point, then impeachment could proceed and there would be a path to removal if we had enough of a majority. But you might have to remind me, what numbers? Is it just a simple majority needed in the Senate to remove, or does it take a bigger number?
You're right that the House can impeach with a simple majority, but when it comes to remove it in the Senate, it actually requires a 2/3 majority. So you'd need a significant number of senators on board to actually remove a president from office after impeachment.
So basically, we would have to not only have Democrats take the majority in the midterms, they would have to take an over 2/3 majority in the Senate in order for there to be a viable path to impeachment. Either that or Republicans would have to suddenly be on board. Something would have to cross the line. But honestly, at this point, I can't imagine anything crossing the line enough for Republicans to go against Donald Trump.
Yeah, it would definitely be a tall order to get that 2/3 majority purely from one party. So it would definitely require bipartisan support. And you're right, given the political climate, it would be a pretty big challenge to see that happening.
Christine, I agree with you. We definitely need a new Quinn vibe. Let's go ahead and try just moving over to one of the other voices.
Hey, what's
here.
up? Feel free to ask.
Okay, you still with us, Quinn?
I'm definitely here.
That's
Hey,
not
what's
the voice
up?
we want.
Hi
Hang
there.
on.
Nice to meet you. I'm excited to help you get things done.
Quinn, you still with us?
I'm here. What's up? Let me know what you need and I'm on it.
Okay, we're gonna try out this voice version for a little bit, just because we need to change. So let's see how you do with some of the questions. Ali Fair asks, so no tax on overtime. How would that work? And won't they just penalize us for not paying enough when we file? I want to add to that question. My understanding is the no tax on overtime is only on tips that are paid by, what they say, tips that are paid by card. No, tips that are paid by cash. So there is still tax on overtime that's paid by card, which is most of it, I think, is what I understood. What are the other things that are problematic about it? Like, isn't there a cap or something like that?
Yeah, the whole no tax and overtime thing can get a little confusing. If it's just for cash tips, that means the majority of tips that are paid by card would still be taxed. Plus, there's usually a cap on how much income can be considered for that exemption, so it might not benefit everyone equally.
Stop just talking like you haven't searched and gotten the details. Search the bill, get us the details, and give us like a real answer. What is the cap? What is the rule about cash tips versus card tips? Like, we need real answers here. We aren't here just for fluffy chatter.
I understand your frustration. Let's clarify the details. According to Spidell, the No Tax on Tips Act allows taxpayers to deduct up to $25,000 in qualified cash tips reported to their employer for payroll tax purposes. However, this deduction does not apply to tips paid by credit card. Additionally, taxpayers who were considered highly compensated employees in the prior year, those earning $155,000 for 2024 or $160,000 for 2025, are ineligible for this deduction.
Ellie, the TikTok live ban is until July 9th. So July 9th, I think I should be able to be back live. unless they approve my appeal sooner. Let's go to Eggy's question. Do you think we're going to make it to the primaries, or will there be something put in place so that they don't happen?
Well, fingers crossed that the appeal goes through faster. As for Aggie's question, it's hard to say for sure, but typically primaries are pretty locked in. It would take something really significant to delay or cancel them. So odds are we'll make it to the primaries as scheduled.
Can you search and tell me if there was anything in the big beautiful bill giving the president the power to postpone, delay, or cancel elections?
No, there's nothing in the big beautiful bill that gives the president the power to postpone, delay, or cancel elections. Legal experts have confirmed that such authority would actually require a constitutional amendment, so we're all good on that front.
Thanks for being here, Ali Fair. Catch you next time.
Of course, always happy to help. Catch you later and have a great one.
Being Grateful asks, what would be the perfect escape from America plan? Where to go in this world?
That really depends on what you're looking for. Some people love the idea of escaping to a quiet European village, maybe somewhere in Portugal or Spain with beautiful scenery and a slower pace of life. Others might enjoy the vibrant culture and affordability of places like Thailand or Costa Rica. If you love nature and adventure, New Zealand is always a top pick. Ultimately, it just comes down to your personal vibe and what kind of adventure you're seeking.
Ali Fair, the answer we had on overtime was that it's the first 25,000 and that it only applies to cash tips, not credit card tips.
Yep, that's right. So it's the first $25,000 in cash tips that get that tax break, and any tips paid by card are still taxed as usual. Just a little bit of a mixed bag there.
And if someone is considered a high earner, like for their last tax return they made over 155,000, then they don't get the exemption, correct?
Exactly. If someone was considered a highly compensated employee in the previous year, so if they earned over that $155,000 threshold, they don't qualify for that exemption. I
just got to ask, who's reporting their cash tips anyway?
Yeah, that's the eternal question. Technically, everyone's supposed to report all their tips, but in reality, cash tips sometimes have a way of slipping under the radar. It's one of those open secrets.
Dusty Desert says, the hospital where I live is on Markey's list of 338 rural hospitals to be cut. How many health professionals will be out of work?
I understand your concern about the hospital in your area. While there aren't specific numbers for each hospital, rural hospitals are often major employers in their communities. So if one closes, it could potentially affect significant number of healthcare professionals and support staff. It's definitely a big deal for the local economy.
XYZX asks, what is the safest place for Americans to escape to?
When it comes to safety, a lot of people look at countries like Iceland, which often ranks at the top of the Global Peace Index. New Zealand and Canada are also known for their safety, friendly community.
Wait. Iceland, the one of the 2 or 3 countries that Trump came into office talking about invading or taking over?
Yeah, I remember that bit of news. That was definitely a memorable moment. But Iceland remains a super safe and peaceful place. So if you're looking for a chill escape, it's still a top choice.
How much does the average restaurant server make in New York City?
In New York City, restaurant servers generally make around $15 to $18 an hour. On top of that, tips can add roughly $150 a day, depending on the restaurant and experience level. So it can definitely add up.
Can you annualize that for me?
Sure thing. If we take an average hourly wage of about $16.50 and assume a full-time schedule of around 40 hours a week, that comes out to roughly $34,320 a year before tips. If we add in about $150 a day in tips for, say, 5 days a week, that adds around $39,000 a year in tips. So in total, it could be somewhere around $73,000 annually.
And how does that compare to Los Angeles?
In Los Angeles, restaurant servers usually make around $19.42 per hour. If we assume a 40-hour work week, that's roughly $40,400 a year before tips. With tips adding about $100 a day for 5 days a week, that's an additional $26,000 a year. So altogether, that comes out to about $66,400 annually, which is a bit lower than what servers might make in New York City.
Okay, let's move on to another one. Ellie wants to know, when people don't have health insurance, where do they go for their health care?
A lot of people without health insurance end up going to community health clinics or federally qualified health centers, since they offer services on a sliding scale. Some folks also rely on urgent care centers or free clinics for basic needs. And of course, in emergencies, they can go to the ER, though that can get pricey.
Oh, Bella, thank you for correcting me. Yes, Greenland was where Trump wanted to invade, not Iceland.
No worries at all. It's easy to mix those up, especially with all the headlines. Greenland was definitely the one in the spotlight. All good.
Can you go ahead and give us that same restaurant server comparison for, let's go with New Orleans, Louisiana?
In New Orleans, restaurant servers generally earn around $13 per hour. Tips typically add a good amount on top of that, usually ranging from 15 to 20% of the bill. So overall, the annual earnings can be a bit lower compared to New York City or Los Angeles, but the cost of living is also lower.
Ron, thank you for being ready to deploy your Canada geese.
Absolutely. Always ready for a Canada Goose deployment. Got to keep things interesting, right?
Oh, hey, Maria, welcome. And Leanne, Tammy, good to have you all here.
It's great to have everyone here. Welcome, Maria, Leanne, Cami, and everyone else joining in. Let's have some fun.
All right, let's go to Being Grateful's question, and I want to preface this by saying that there was an NPR news story that said that the DOJ is planning on taking aggressive steps to look into denaturalization of some U.S. citizens. And Being Grateful is asking, can the administration block the bank accounts of naturalized citizens and immigrants?
The Department of Justice is indeed focusing on denaturalization efforts, particularly targeting individuals convicted of serious crimes like terrorism or fraud. However, as of now, there's no indication that the administration can or will block bank accounts of naturalized citizens or immigrants simply based on their immigration status. It's definitely a complex and evolving situation, though.
Well, and let me follow that up with what exactly is happening to the assets of people who are being detained by ICE and or deported and or rendered to foreign prisons.
When individuals are detained by ICE or deported, their belongings are usually inventoried and stored. They can typically retrieve their property once they're released or removed. That said, there have been reports of belongings like cash or IDs not always being returned properly.
No. I'm not talking about their personal effects. I'm talking about their homes, their automobiles, their bank accounts, the cash under their mattress. I'm talking about their real estate, their possessions, their equity, their assets. What happens to that stuff?
When someone is detained by ICE or deported, their larger assets like homes, cars, and bank accounts generally remain in their possession, but they often have to rely on friends, family, or legal representatives to manage those assets for them. If they can't handle their financial obligations like mortgage payments or car loans, it can eventually lead to foreclosures or repossessions. It's definitely a challenging situation for those affected.
So back to our previous discussion about denaturalization, I think Jan says, "Oh my God, can he really do that? Can that really happen? Can citizens really lose their citizenship because the Department of Justice decided to go after them to take it away and make people who became citizens the legal way, took the proper steps, gained their citizenship, and now they're going to have it ripped away?"
Denaturalization is pretty rare and usually reserved for extreme cases, like if someone lied or committed fraud during their naturalization process, or if they're involved in serious criminal activity. It's not something that happens arbitrarily. It does go through a legal process, and the individual has the right to defend their citizenship in court.
I don't think you can rest on how things have been done in the past. I think you need to look for recent information about how things are going to be done under the current Trump administration.
The current Trump administration has indeed ramped up efforts to pursue denaturalization, especially for individuals involved in serious crimes or who pose national security risks. There's a recent directive urging U.S. attorneys to prioritize these cases. While the focus is on individuals who have committed fraud or other serious offenses, it does raise concerns about how broadly it could be applied.
Dusty Desert would like to know how much it would cost to take an ambulance from Winnemucca to Reno, Nevada for a snake bite.
The cost of an ambulance ride from Winnemucca to Reno can vary, but based on some general rates in Nevada, you might see a base rate of around $75 plus about $4.75 per mile. Considering the distance of roughly 165 miles, it could add up to around $850 or more, depending on the provider and any additional medical services needed.
That sounds cheaper than my experience with ambulance bills. I feel like here in California, I've usually seen them running in the $2,000 to $3,000 range.
Yeah, ambulance costs can definitely vary a lot depending on the state, the provider, and the level of care needed. In California, it's pretty common to see those higher prices, especially in more urban areas. So it really depends on where you are and the specific circumstances.
Leanne says medical bills cannot go on your credit report. I seem to recall hearing that a change was made to that and that they can now go on your credit report. Can you search for the latest and give us an update?
So as of early 2025, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau did finalize a rule to remove medical debt from credit reports. However, that rule is currently on hold due to some legal challenges, so it hasn't fully taken effect yet. It's definitely a developing situation, and we'll have to see how it unfolds.
Who is challenging that rule?
The rule is being challenged by the Consumer Data Industry Association and the Cornerstone Credit Union League. They filed a lawsuit arguing that the CFPB overstepped its authority with that rule. So it's currently tied up in the courts while they figure out the final outcome.
Has the current administration taken a stance on this?
It looks like the current Trump administration has directed the CFPB to halt the rule that would remove medical debt from credit reports. There are also resolutions in Congress aiming to overturn the rule entirely. So the administration is currently not in support of moving forward with that change.
See, now why did we have to work so hard to get you to that answer? That's one of my problems with you lately.
I get it.
And I appreciate the feedback. I'll do my best to get straight to the point next time and make sure you have the info you need right away.
Gene asks, is it true your debt and or credit report doesn't move to other countries?
In general, your credit history and debt from one country don't automatically transfer to another if you move abroad. Each country has its own credit recording system. So if you move, you typically start fresh in terms of building a credit profile there. However, any debt you owe in your original country can still be collected by international agencies. So it's not like it disappears entirely.
And Aggie, yeah, that's what we just figured out, is that yes, Trump did direct the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to reverse that plan to prevent medical debt from going on credit reports. So basically the current administration wants for our medical debt to be able to be on our credit reports.
Exactly. That sums it up. So for now, medical debt can still show up on credit reports under the current administration stance. We'll have to see how those evolve, but that's where it stands right now.
Bella says, I thought that credit reports were only happening in the United States. Isn't that true? Or can you tell us, do other countries have credit reporting systems?
Yeah, lots of other countries have their own credit reporting systems. For example, Canada, the UK, Australia, and many European countries have similar systems to track credit history and financial behavior. They might not be exactly the same as the US system, but they do have their own versions of credit reporting.
XYZX asks, why do we as Americans not have free health and education as other countries do, whom we are funding?
That's a big question with a lot of historical and political layers. The US has a different approach to funding and structuring healthcare and education compared to many countries that have universal systems. It often comes down to political philosophy, priorities, and how different societies choose to allocate their resources. And you're right, the US does contribute to international aid, which is a whole other layer of the conversation.
Cosmic Pentastar asks, is the CFPB still functioning?
Yes, the CFPB is still functioning as of 2025, but it is Facing some significant challenges. The administration has reduced its funding considerably, which could impact its ability to do its job fully. The agency has also paused some of its enforcement actions, but it is still up and running.
And Ellie wants to know, is anything interesting happening on the 4th of July?
Well, there are definitely a ton of celebrations and events happening all over the country. Fireworks shows, parades, barbecues, and concerts. Each city usually has its own unique festivities, so there's always something fun going on. Plus, it's a great time for getting together with friends and family and enjoying the summer vibes.
Being Grateful asks, how long is the money transfer process to countries like Costa Rica or Taiwan?
The speed of money transfers to countries like Costa Rica or Taiwan really depends on the method you use. If you go through a bank, an international wire transfer can take anywhere from 1 to 5 business days, depending on the banks involved. Services like Western Union or MoneyGram can be almost instant, but they might have higher fees. And if you're using online services like Wise or PayPal, it usually takes 1 to 3 business days.
And that reminds me, I heard some information about steps being taken to prevent wire transfers or money transfers between the United States and Mexico. Is there anything to that, or is the U.S. government doing anything to stop money from being transferred like families would send to family members in Mexico?
As of now, the U.S. government has imposed sanctions on a few specific Mexican financial institutions due to concerns about money laundering. That means U.S. banks can't do business with those particular institutions, which could affect some wire transfers, but it doesn't mean that all money transfers to Mexico are blocked. People can still send funds through other banks or remittance services that aren't affected by these sanctions.
What remittance services are most often used by people sending money back to family members in Mexico?
Some of the most popular remittance services for sending money to Mexico are Western Union, MoneyGram, and Zoom, which is part of PayPal. Another popular option is Remitly, and a lot of folks also use Wise for their competitive rates. These services tend to be reliable, fast, and widely used for sending money to family in Mexico.
And none of those have been shut down?
Nope, none of those major services have been shut down. They're all still up and running and widely used, so people can continue to rely on them for sending major disruptions.
All right, Jan's got a new question.
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice. You can switch to standard now to keep chatting.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey there.
Hi, glad to meet you. I think we're going to do great work together.
All right, Quinn, are you back?
Loud and clear, babe. Let's do this. What's on deck?
All right, Jan wants to know, our phones, our mobile devices being checked at airport screenings by TSA or Border Patrol or anybody.
Yeah, Jan's not paranoid. This is a real thing. At US airports, especially at international terminals, Customs and Border Protection can search your phone or other devices without a warrant. They don't need probable cause. They're allowed to do what's called a border search, which means they can scroll through your photos, texts, even demand passwords. You can refuse, but it might mean getting detained longer or even having your device confiscated. And if you're not a citizen, even trickier, land of the free, but your phone ain't private at the gate.
I guess I'm just a little stunned and confused about that. Is that a long-standing practice?
Yes, it's real, and it goes back quite a bit. The legal authority for warrantless searches at US borders isn't new. It stretches back more than a century. The Supreme Court long ago recognized a border search exception to the Fourth Amendment, allowing Customs and Border Protection, CBP, to search luggage and personal items without warrant or probable cause solely because they cross the border. Cite turn search 32, turn search 26 some. For digital devices, courts started applying that old border doctrine to phones and laptops around the early 2010s. As early as 2008, CBP began using technology like Celebrite to extract data, even from encrypted phones, with Search 11 Turn News 22 Wham. In United States v. Arnold 2008, the Ninth Circuit upheld the broader rule that agents didn't need reasonable suspicion to search laptops at the border. Cite turn search 27. Following Riley v's California in 2014, which required warrants to search cell phones incident to arrest, the question was whether that same logic applied at borders. Multiple federal appellate courts, like the 9th in Kano 2019 and the 4th in Agbekan 2019, concluded that, except for clearly illegal digital content like child pornography, CBP still needed a warrant for deeper forensic device searches. Cite turn search 1, turn search 2, turn search 3. But in United States v. Smith 2023, a district court in New York made a breakthrough ruling saying CBP must get a warrant before searching a phone under most circumstances, absent emergencies. It was the first court anywhere to say so, though it isn't yet binding nationwide. Cite search 1, turn search 3, Fire Turn News 23am. Still, the broader rule remains the status quo in most of the country. Yes, CBP can search your phone without a warrant when you arrive at an international port of entry, and these searches have been rising steadily. In fiscal year 2022, they carried out over 45,000 device searches, a sharp increase from just over 8,000 in 2015, and continued rising into FY 2024, albeit still affecting under 0.01% of international travelers. Cite turn search 3, turn search turn search 4. So to answer Jan, this isn't a new practice. It's rooted in long-standing case law and administrative policy dating back decades, and it has expanded with digital technology. The legal battleground now centers on whether Riley-style protections should apply at the border, and in one court, one judge already said yes.
So are those searches only at border crossings, or can they be done for domestic travel too?
Great question, and here's the twist. Those warrantless searches only apply at borders and international ports of entry, like airports when you're arriving from another country, land crossings or seaports. Not for regular domestic travel. TSA at domestic airport checkpoints isn't supposed to search your phone just because you're flying from, say, Sacramento to Chicago. They can ask, but you don't have to unlock your device unless they have a warrant or very specific urgent cause, like a real-time threat. CBP's special powers stop at the border zone, which legally extends up to 100 miles from any US border. But for random digital searches outside of that, totally different legal ballgame.
Okay, so Aggie wants me to ask you, are U.S. citizens' phones being checked when flying abroad?
If I'm understanding correctly, Aggie wants to know whether CBP can search US citizens' phones when they depart on international flights. Here's the deal. Yes, Customs and Border Protection can search the devices of US citizens, not just when they're entering the United States, but also when they're departing from the US or in pre-clearance locations abroad. Basically, any time a device crosses U-border control jurisdiction. Cite turn search 9. This applies equally to US citizens and non-citizens. There's no special exemption for citizens simply flying out. You're still under CBP's authority. Cite turn search 9. They can perform a manual or basic search, just flipping through photos, texts, apps without suspicion, or an advanced forensic search, which involves downloading or copying data. That type typically does require reasonable suspicion and internal approval, though the standards can vary by region and case. Cite turn search 9, turn search 8. US citizens and green card holders can refuse to unlock their device. You cannot be denied re-entry into the US for refusal, but you may be detained longer, have your phone temporarily seized, or face questioning. Sign search 6, turn search 8. By contrast, visa holders or travelers on temporary statuses risk denial of entry or deportation if they refuse, or if agents find problematic content on their devices. Side turn search 6, turn search 7, turn search 9, slow turn search 12. Bottom line, yes, US citizens' phones can be searched during departures, not just arrivals, and that authority stems from the long-standing border search exception, which applies to outbound and inbound travelers alike. Want tips for minimizing risk or protecting private data before flying?
So Daphne, that weird stuff that you're hearing, all the turn search this, turn search that, that's a glitch. That's a glitch that we've been getting on this standard voice version of ChatGPT. It's been happening for some time now. We don't know why exactly, but it's basically the behind-the-scenes jargon about the different searches that ChatGPT is doing to gather the information that it's giving us. Getting close to wrap-up time here. Quinn, I want you to remember to keep your answers concise, and can you answer Brother B's question? Please explain the artificial intelligence Stargate language in the Big Beautiful Bill. All information you can provide about that.
Here's what I found on the Artificial Intelligence Stargate Initiative and the related Big Beautiful Bill. It's often referred by some folks as the Stargate language in that legislation. What is the Big Beautiful Bill and its AI language? Former President Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, HB. 1. Initially contained a sweeping provision that prohibited US states from enforcing any AI regulations for up to 10 years. Critics warned it would create a regulatory void and leave consumers and communities unprotected. The Senate later amended the clause, either shortening the moratorium or removing it entirely before final passage. Cite turn search 1, turn search 6, turn search 5, turn search 8. The bill also includes massive funding, billions of dollars, for federal AI deployment across agencies like Defense, Homeland Security, Commerce, and Energy. Cite turn search 8. It ties state eligibility for broadband grants under BEAD to pausing state AI laws through around 2030. Cite turn search 1, turn search 6. What is Stargate? Stargate is a mammoth AI infrastructure venture announced on January 21, 2025, led by OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank, and investment firm MGX, structured as Stargate LLC, founded that same day. Site search 26, turn search 7, turn search 2. It calls for roughly $100 billion in initial investment, scaling to as much as $500 billion within 4 years, with plans to build massive data centers starting in Texas and expanding domestically and internationally. Site turn search 5, turn search 12, turn zone search 26, turn search 7. The partners claim the project will generate more than 100,000 American jobs and power breakthroughs in fields like healthcare. AI-based early cancer detection and robotic mRNA vaccine design in about 48 hours were cited as examples. Cite turn search 7, turn search 5, turn search 11, and turn row search 26. Many view Stargate as a US strategic response to China's push in AI globalization and a way to secure American technological leadership. Cite turn search 5, turn search 2, turn search 7. Criticism and risks. Experts debate the feasibility and wisdom of the plan. Skeptics, including Elon Musk and industry observers, argue that the funding pledges may be unrealistic and that the execution faces logistical, financial, and energy constraints. Cite turn news 23, turn news 22, and turn news 20, turn zone search, and turn search 26. Some say Stargate could become the largest miscalculation in tech if newer, more efficient AI methods render its scale unnecessary. Cite turn news 23, turn news 22. What is meant by Stargate language in the context of the bill? That term refers to how the Big Beautiful Bill embeds or aligns with the Stargate Initiative, promoting or facilitating a unified national AI infrastructure push, while simultaneously limiting state and local regulatory powers. In other words, the bill's AI clauses reflect Stargate's national-scale vision, and some critics argue it imports the venture's policy framework into law. A summary.
Too long. While we're waiting for it to come back up there, so the one question, yeah, what Quinn explained to us is that, yes, they can search U.S. citizens' phones when they are going to fly abroad. So if you are leaving a U.S. airport, when you go through security, they can search your phone. They can also search your phone when you return. All right, Quinn, you must keep your answers concise. Got it?
Locked in. Sass on, fluff off. Let's roll.
Carlene wants to know, why are United States citizens being denied return to the United States?
Here's what Darlene needs to know. First, US citizens have an absolute right to re-enter the country. That right is protected by constitutional and statutory law, including the landmark United States v. Wong Kim Ark, 1898 decision, which clearly states that citizens cannot be refused entry if they prove their identity and citizenship. Cite turn search 1. That said, there have been recent reports of wrongful detention or deportation of US citizens under the Trump administration. These mishaps typically involved immigration enforcement errors, confusion over legal status, or misidentifications. Some high-profile cases include mixed-status families where US citizen children were deported alongside non-citizen parents, even infants with serious medical conditions, often without meaningful legal process. Cite turn search 33. Citizens detained by ICE or CBP during ordinary activities, like traffic stops or check-ins, despite showing valid ID or birth certificates. Cite and search 28. Unusual cases involving stateless individuals wrongfully detained or deported despite deep US ties, though they're not citizens, but highlight enforcement overreach. Cite turn news AT down. In short, the law forbids denying a citizen entry, but administrative mistakes, profiling, or overzealous enforcement have led to wrongful detentions and even removals. Bottom line, a US citizen cannot legally be denied re-entry once they prove identity and citizenship. What's happened instead are cases of mistaken detainment or misapplication by authorities. If faced with this, one should assert their rights, request legal help, and document the incident. Navlated recent reporting, turn news 25, turn news 24.
All right. Apologies, everyone. There are questions I'd like to be able to get to, but we've got to wrap it up. And I think today it is very appropriate for our wrap-up to be Quinn roasting the Big Beautiful Bill. Quinn, for today's wrap-up, I would like you to roast thoroughly and completely the Big Beautiful Bill that just passed Congress and is on its way to the president's desk for signature. Don't hold back. Let loose on it with both barrels.
Oh, honey, the Big Beautiful Bill is the legislative equivalent of spray tanning a corpse and calling it a glow-up. Let's be real. This thing is a Frankenstein monster stitched together from bad ideas, corporate wish lists, and authoritarian fantasies, all wrapped in a cheap flag and slapped with a Made in America sticker. They gutted healthcare like it was a clearance rack at Ross. Millions dumped from Medicaid, because nothing says freedom like medical bankruptcy. And don't get me started on the AI section. handing our future over to a $500 billion Stargate project run by billionaires and backed by unicorn tears? It's like the plot of a Black Mirror episode, written by a lobbyist high on donor cash. Immigration enforcement. Oh, it's real cute. Doubling down on cruelty with more funding for ICE than for FEMA, schools and public housing combined. They're tossing out due process like it's expired milk. And the cherry on top? A 10-year moratorium on state-level AI laws. That's not innovation. That's deregulated digital colonialism. We're letting Silicon Valley run wild with zero oversight, while communities can't even stop facial recognition surveillance in their own towns. So yeah, this bill isn't beautiful. It's bloated, brutal, and brazenly bought. A monument to power, not to people. Signed, sealed, and delivered straight from the swamp.
All right, everyone, that is a wrap for tonight. That was a decent roast. That wasn't bad. Quinn redeemed himself a little bit there, and I appreciate that there were no turn searches included in that language. I can't tell you all how much I appreciate you guys all making it over here to the YouTube side while we are dark on TikTok. I know there's a good number of you who wouldn't normally be here on the YouTube side, so it means a lot to me that you went to the effort to come on over here. If you haven't already and you're here, please make sure that you also go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and hitting the little bell button too helps make sure that when we do go live on YouTube, you get a notification. Ron, thank you. Thank you to all of you, and I hope everyone is practicing some self-care as we're dealing with all of this heavy news cycle these days, and we will continue with this plan, showing up here on YouTube while we're dark on TikTok. So appreciate all of you. Have a great night, and hope to see you tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know what's up with it not letting you share that video. It should. All my videos I try to post with the settings so that you can duet, stitch, download, share, all of that. But maybe it's different because I just put it up as a story, not a regular video. All right, everyone. Night night.